All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast. As always, we are brought to you by Mountain Tough Fitness. If you want to take your health to the next level, go check out their website and join one of their daily programs using the promo code Okayest30. That's all caps 30 for a free 30-day trial. Now, my guests, plural, today hail from the great state of Mississippi. They are both lifelong outdoor lovers. They value getting time out in the swamp to disconnect from the hustle and bustle of everyday modern life. And a year ago, both of these women came together and started doing damage control work with Beavers Unlimited, and their trapping journey began. Melanie, Lauren, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having us.
Glad to be here.
I am so excited to be chatting with both of you. I miss the swamps. For those who don't know, before I moved to Idaho, I lived in Louisiana for several years. I miss the food. I somewhat miss the humidity and the heat, but I do miss the people. So I'm super excited to be talking with both of you.
Thank you.
Now, I always start off, and I'm going to ask Melanie first. But what was your first exposure ever to trapping? That could have been as a child, a young adult, an adult. Like, when did you first ever figure out that trapping was even a thing that you could do?
So about 8 years ago, I went to work for the Mississippi National Guard, and we have a environmental natural resources department. And so I was hanging out with the guys, and our wildlife biologist is the owner of Beavers Unlimited. So I would hear some trapping stories about some things they were doing or seeing, and it was interesting to me. But I just started hunting like 3 years ago. So that's when I really started appreciating the whole concept of getting, the animals. So I started with deer, then I moved to turkey. And then this opportunity came along. So it was like a natural progression for me to start doing beaver trapping. We convinced him to give us a shot at it. I don't think he took us too seriously at first, but he did take us out there. And by the end of the day, he was like, y'all want to trap for me? Let's do this thing. And so we have been doing it for just over a year and loving everything about it, really.
That's awesome. And Lauren, is that the same story for you then? Like, have you always been hunting? Were you exposed to trapping any other points as well?
So not trapping, but, I was raised in the outdoors, fishing, all that good stuff. But kind of like Melanie, I had no clue about trapping, but I did the whole college thing, hated it. I was like 3 years in, couldn't even do another semester. All I know is I wanted to be outdoors. That's all that mattered to me. I was actually going to do artificial insemination for livestock, outdoors, whatever. But about that time when I was like done is when Brian reached out to us.
Which is our beaver boss and the owner of Beavers Unlimited.
Shout out to Brian.
Yes, we love Brian.
Yes. So, yes, and I would just happen to be at a crossroads in my life at the same time. I was coming out of a unhealthy marriage, and so I was at a crossroads, and I knew I loved being outside and learning new things and taking on new challenges. And then she's kind of in the same boat. Lauren has been a family friend of mine for years and years. Her and my niece have been best friends, so I've known her for a long time. We've worked together at my sister's wedding venue, so we knew how we worked around each other. So there was a lot of things that fell into place so that when the timing of the Beavers Unlimited came around, everything fell into place for us, and we knew that it meant to be.
Without a doubt.
And just everything has just been right on for us, so we know that it was the right thing for us, for sure.
That's beautiful. And for what it's worth, I know you both don't know me like personally, but what got me into my hunting trapping journey was similar. It was an unhealthy marriage. I went through a divorce. I had been dabbling in hunting before, and then kind of went down the path. And there is something, whether it's marriage, whether it's schooling that you're not that excited about, there's something redemptive in the outdoors. And then I would argue even more so with trapping. So it's great to hear it's had the same effect for both of you.
Yes, for sure.
And Beavers Unlimited, like the name says it all, right? Working in control work with beaver. I got to ask, what was the first experience like when you were going out on the trap line with Brian to trap a beaver? Like, maybe let's start sequentially. Like, did you have any idea what it was going to be like when you went out with him?
We had no idea. Like, so he's a natural teacher, instructor. So he's not just saying how to do the trapping. He's big on explaining to us why we're doing it. So that was our first experience. Was we're going out and he's telling us why the beaver trapping is so important and why people pay for it and stuff. So once we kind of knew the why, then he got down to the details, and this is how we're actually going to catch the beavers. He is a wildlife biologist, so he dabbles in a lot of different things. He does prescribed fires and things like that with beavers that that we don't do, but he does do some predator control that he lets us go and do with them. Sometimes get super excited about those times. But as far as us, it started with just the beaver trapping. Like, let's just get this down, why we do it, how to be good at it. So that's where we started.
I want to hear, and maybe Lauren, the first time you were out on the line, what was your thought or what was going through your mind when you walked up to a trap for the first time, whether it was a trap you set or whether it was a trap Brian had set, and you saw a little tuft of fur, whether it's sticking out of the water, under, like, what was your thought process around that?
Excitement. It's like, I was hooked. I don't know really how to say it other than that. Like, it's just, and trappers get it. I mean, you don't know unless you do it. It's just a feeling,
Yeah. And
I love it.
With that, like, what's kind of you guys are all doing mostly control work. So talk to me a little bit about that. Like, is the process specifically in like Mississippi and where you're at, where someone might have a beaver problem, like they have a beaver in their retention pond and it's flooding or is flooding a roadway, or, there's just a natural need to take out a certain number of beaver in an area. Are individuals in the community calling, like, looking up in the phone book, Beavers Unlimited, I need help with this control. And then, Brian's like, you two go after it. Is that how it's operating?
That is how it sometimes works. But most of the time, so we work for landowners that have valuable hard pines, or they have a levee that they're driving across, or agriculture, or a need to keep water off. And so they pay us, for the water insurance to go in there and make sure that their stuff doesn't get damaged. So we don't really have to sell ourselves on what we do and the importance of it. These landowners understand the value of it. They tell us we're their favorite check to write because what they have, they understand the value of it and to keep it from being destroyed by beavers. So we stay busy, word of mouth a lot, but
a lot of word of mouth.
Yeah, so if you fix a problem from one landowner, the neighbor or friend wants to know who did it, right? So that's kind of what we depend on. We go in there and do a good job in hopes that you do tell somebody to give us a call.
And with beavers specifically, and I'm thinking, because I'm a relatively new trapper, all things considered, I do river trapping specifically for beaver up where I'm at, Clearwater, all of that. I'm mostly using footholds and conibears across, like, crossways outside of, beaver lodges themselves. With going into a new area constantly for this different control work, like, you might be going to a new property you've never been to. Like, first off, like, what kind of traps are you mostly using? Is it conibears or footholds? And then, like, how do you start to just suss out the area to figure out where and how you're going to trap these critters for, these paying clients of yours?
Yes, I mean, it all depends on the location. Like you said, it's always different no matter where we go. It's completely different. We do a lot of conibears and a lot of snares is what we mainly use. But,
330 is our favorite.
Yeah.
Then, of course, we use the snares a lot. So those are our two main ones. We have been trained on the leg holds, and I guess if we had the right situation, that's what we would do. But most of the time, those conibears or snares are perfect for the areas that we need to get into.
Yeah, and so snaring is something that a lot of people up here do for beaver. Is not something that I've had much success in. So, like, having been educated with Brian, having had the time to go out and put it into practice, where would you put a snare over a conibear when you're out and about? Is that because you'd want to get them like at a slide where they're entering the water, and then a conibear would be more in the water, getting them in a swimming situation? What does that look like from a breakdown perspective?
Yeah, so like for a conibear, we'll do like a dam break set for the most part, and then slides, crossovers, things like that we use a snare for.
Yeah, mostly crossovers. Like if you can tell where the beaver is crossing over or traveling, that's a good place for us to put a snare at the entrance. So that's a lot of times it's a crossover for a snare. And in water, or of course at a dam break, the conibear is our go-to for that.
With one of the things that I found was snaring beaver, and it's probably an ineptitude on my trapping capabilities, is like the beavers kind of have this weird waddle and this wide neck. How are you setting up your snares to kind of get that? Because I think I started with more canine trapping. So I think of setting snares for canines, which is a little higher off the ground. The loop's a little bit more narrow. And I was trying to do that with beaver, and I think they were knocking it out of the way a lot of times, or I wasn't getting a good catch. How's your approach to setting a snare for a beaver in one of those crossovers?
Lauren, I call her the snare queen. She's really, really, really good at it. But she is so particular about the size of her snare. Like she likes it a little bit bigger than her hand in a circle. And of course we use the slide and lock snares, so she gets it just right. But yeah, so basically I call her the expert, but we both just kind of were taught maybe 10 inches circle for the snare.
About 2 o'clock where you want your little lock at.
Yep, right off the ground.
Yeah, a little like an inch off the ground. But yeah.
So you're the snare queen.
Apparently, I guess
she is. She is. She's so precise, So I let her get down there and do those snares just right. And she's successful at it. I mean, I remember one day, so I work a full-time job for the military. And so she was out one day just checking and setting some snares up. And that weekend we pulled up and walking along where she had set her snares. And there was a huge dry beaver because it was up on the bank, and we got so excited, like we had got out of the truck and did a little dance, and just so satisfying to put the thought into where to put it, how to set it, and then come back a few days later and find that you were successful. It's a celebration. Like we get very excited about it.
Year later,
we have a song we play every time we pull a beaver out of the trap, and so we're having fun with it too, but definitely satisfying.
Well, I hope that never leaves. It hasn't left me yet. Anytime, I think I'm always shocked with myself. I'm like, oh, that worked. Oh, holy crap. All that attention to detail, it actually worked out for me. And, I'd say I'm probably a 10% trapper on what I'm putting out versus catch, and trying to get a little better at it each time. But it is an amazing feeling that nobody who hasn't done it can truly understand. With being relatively new trappers, I got to ask, and I'll ask each one of you individually. We'll start with Lauren and then I'll ask Melanie, but as a new trapper, what's the biggest mistake that you've made on your trap line to date?
That's a hard one. That's a very hard question.
Yeah.
I guess I would say after the fact, like after I had set a trap, and I leave that job, I'm like, I think to myself, I should have done that different. Should have done that different. Should have done that different. But I mean, you only can get better from, there, acknowledging what you did wrong, what you could have done better, I think is one of my big things. And I still to this day, and I feel like I'll never stop doing that. What could I have done better? But
to hyper analyzing. I like that. I mean, I think that's key for anything, is to get better, is to, sit. And I've gotten now to where I try to write some stuff down so I don't forget it. Cause my biggest problem is I'll think about it, and then when I go out trapping again, I'm like, wait, what was that thing that I did so terribly wrong that I need to remember? But yeah, I think that's great. And Melanie, what about you? Can you remember in the last year plus what your biggest mistake's been on the trap line?
I think we went back to check in the very beginning. We went back to check our traps, and I had one safety still on, and I was pretty upset about it. It was just one, but yeah, I was like, we're gonna keep that a secret and not tell anybody. And you see how that worked out for me. But yeah, that was a learning curve. So now we call each other out like safeties.
If anybody's listening to this who hasn't left a safety on or had water knock it back on, is a liar. So you are not alone. I have done it. Everybody who's trapped, I would reckon, has done it, and probably missed a catch because of it, which is the most heartbreaking thing.
Right.
And you mentioned a little bit too. So you guys are out doing a lot of the control work, focusing on beavers mostly. You said you get to do a little bit of predator work. I'm a big fan of predator control. What predators are down there that you're working on? Is it coyotes? Is it foxes? Like, what other critters have y'all had an opportunity to kind of dabble in?
Yeah, all of it. That's predators.
So coyotes, hogs, coons, armadillos,
possums. I don't know if you said that.
I don't know, Zach.
What's your favorite though? I mean, like, put beavers aside, like, of the other critters that you've had an opportunity to, dabble in, what's your favorite critter to catch?
We like to chase coyotes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. They're
haven't been successful yet, but we're working on it.
Yeah.
We are actively pursuing one.
Yes.
It is a battle of wits that will drive you nuts and keep you up at night. Like, for me, canines, like, beaver are tough, river critters are tough, water critters in general, and they're a lot of fun, satisfying, but canines are just so dang smart. It's unreal.
I would like to get a bobcat.
Yeah.
Do
y'all have an active bobcat population down in Mississippi?
We do. We have not, and I've seen them on, out, but we just haven't came across one at the right time yet. But
it'll happen. And that, hopefully you get that critter mounted. I was actually speaking with a crew in Pennsylvania, and they had a beautiful taxidermied full mount bobcat from one that he had caught with his son for the first time, and it was beautiful. Those animals are amazing. And then, social media, like, I have to ask, right? I'm a male in a male-dominated industry of trapping. In this world of social media, getting into trapping, adult onset, being female, like, what's been kind of the reception just in general, whether that's family, social media, to, just being almost full-time beaver trappers? Has it been warm? Has it been lukewarm? Has it been met with raised eyebrows? What have you felt?
I mean, I think everybody's just shocked. They're like, y'all are out there with snakes? Like, y'all go into the woods? And we're like, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Shock is a lot of it. People are just like, I can't believe y'all are doing that.
What about you, Melanie? What are your thoughts? Like, have you gotten a different reception, or is it kind of the same thing of just like, I can't believe y'all are out there?
Yeah, so a lot of that. When we first got started, we, of course, anxiously joined all the trapping Facebook pages and just started, watching, feeling like a part of the trapping world. And I remember the first post we made had some comments and stuff that we were like, I can't believe this. But we were aware that we were, working in a male-dominated field. I mean, like we knew that it was going to look a lot different with us out there. I think probably some of the comments were shocking to us, but a lot of them were very supportive and very, y'all got this, good job, tight chains. I mean, it's been fun. It's been a good experience. I wish we personally need to do better with our social media, and just finding that right, the right times to do them. We are working on that, but definitely help in that area.
Yeah, it's a big puzzle, right? As far as putting it all together. Like, obviously you both are rooted, and it sounds like thanks to Brian too, of being rooted in conservation, being rooted in the why. Like, we want to go after the nest raiders to preserve our ground nesting birds. We want to protect the ecosystem. And I think that's extremely valuable for the trapping community overall, to be able to put our best foot forward. And then when you are both out there and doing social media, I think that's just as important. Like, I hate that it is, because ironically, I hate social media. I don't like my face being out there, but it's kind of like the if not me, then who? And I think it's probably the same, scenario for both of you when you have other adult onset people who want to get into it. You are both a great model for that, right? Like, you can get into it at any point in your life and you could probably get a lot out of it. Being a woman as well, like, I'm sure there's so many young women out there who probably don't see this as a viable potential career or even a hobby, but then they can see both of you and be like, oh, I can go do that. So I do think there's a lot of value in there. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that evolves for both of you on the social media side too. And it can be toxic, but stay strong.
That's right. We're up to the challenge.
And I have to ask, you mentioned it, Lauren, snakes. I freaking hate snakes. I have strategically placed myself in a spot where I can trap year round and not run into a snake if I have to. Both of you are way braver than I would be, because I think about going and trapping in the swamps back where I was in Louisiana. I'm like, I don't know if I could do it. Like, what has been some of the encounters with like reptiles and other like non-target critters that happen to be poisonous and a big pain in the ass?
I mean, we see them all the time, but they don't hurt us. We don't hurt them. We're in their home. Mm-hmm. So we think they're beautiful. So we just leave them alone.
She'll say, watch your step. And I just watch my step and keep walking, or they'll swim over our boot or whatever. And we'll just stop for a second, let them do their thing, and then continue on with our thing. We'll just respect them. And so far they've respected us.
Well, I have respect for both of you for that. Like, is it cottonmouths, like rattlesnakes? Like, what all do you have down there roaming around the woods you're stomping in?
A lot of cottonmouths.
Timber rattlers, water moccasins. Yeah.
Man, like I said, growing up there, like, I'm petrified. And I was telling somebody I had recently had a run-in with a rattlesnake up here, and I nearly had to change my pants. So having them swim over my boots and everything, that is a next level commitment to trapping. Have you noticed, like, with the wildlife out there, like, as far as beaver, I'm assuming you have nutria. Obviously, you've got the ground nesting or ground nest raider types like raccoons, possums, armadillos, hogs. Do all of those kind of play well together in that ecosystem? Like, where you're at with beaver, you're obviously going to see snakes, nutria, others, or like they kind of more dispersed than I might be thinking in my mind.
Some jobs we have, they're together.
I think they live together. Yeah. I really do, because we will see otters and beavers together in the same spot with alligators and snakes. So I really think they're living together back there.
I forgot about the gators. I was focused on snakes. What about gators? Tell me a gator story while y'all been out trapping.
We don't really have a gator story yet.
So we had one location that something kept grabbing our traps or eating the beavers out of the traps. And so we got there one day and was walking up, and there was just gator tracks all the way to the trap. And so I kind of texted the landowner, and he's like, yeah, we've seen him several times. He's out there, so we're just a little bit careful. You really can't see where you're walking in the swamps. We're like, watch where you step, but you're just walking through lily pads and knee deep in water and stuff. But that's when it comes in handy to have two people, right? So when one person's setting the conibear, the other one's kind of on the lookout, or vice versa. We are very aware of our surroundings when we're in the water. And so we just try to see it before it sees us.
Yeah, that's cool. I'm impressed because like when I'm out beaver trapping, I might run into otters, I'll see some fish in clear water streams, but the amount of diversity that you get to contend with is equal parts scary to me and equal parts impressive, especially like gators, snakes, all the other critters. And obviously hogs are not like the most gentle animals in the world. And when you said you've also worked like doing some control around hogs, is that like live trapping hogs, or is that also snares and other type of, more permanent control?
No, we go out with thermals at night.
Yep.
To do all that.
Yep. That's the way to do it. That's the fun stuff. That was my first hunt.
That was my favorite.
Yeah, that was my first hunt, was hogs, when I first kind of got into it as an adult, and it was a lot of fun. Going back to the attention to detail that it takes to be a trapper. Melanie, you mentioned that you first kind of got into things through hunting, and then it kind of was a slow evolution to trapping. A question I like to ask is, have you found yourself being a better hunter now that you have taken up trapping, from the attention to detail, from the time out in the field, like focusing on tracks and, different sets? Has that really affected your ability to go back and hunt?
So let's see. I definitely pay attention more, looking around. So my biggest hunting is turkey hunting. So that's what excites me, and that's what I like to do. This year was a little bit humbling for me. I did not have the season that I had my first season, so it gave me a lot of time to just kind of enjoy the aspect of watching, looking around, noticing different things. A lot of seeing the same things from the turkey woods to the swamps, same animals, birds, things like that. But as far as making me a better hunter, I do think it's honing in my attention to detail, the thinking like the beaver, or whatever, however you want to say it. I will take that over and think more to, let me think of what the deer's thinking, or let me think how this turkey's thinking. Because before it was me hunting the animal, but now I am finding myself thinking more of how that animal may think, so that I can outsmart it.
Perfect. Lauren, I mean, are you also hunting pretty actively outside of your beaver trapping too?
Not too much. I mean, I've deer hunted in the past, but it's not something I was big into.
Yeah. Well, now if you do go back and do it, you'll probably have a little bit of an edge, which is the good thing.
Scared to take her turkey hunting. She's going to love it so much she'll be out hunting me.
That's my problem, is there's so many things in the outdoors. Like I've gone too deep into trapping now that takes up all my time. Like I got into everything outdoors to do big game hunting, and my big game hunting has largely taken a backseat to trapping, because it is hard to do it all. If you're going to be out trapping, it's hard to be out hunting full time, and, fishing, if that's what you're into. It's hard to balance them all. Melanie, what is the coolest thing that you've experienced in the time that you've been out trapping? It could be an animal, it could be an experience in the woods, it could be a sunset. Like, what's the coolest thing that trapping has afforded you, or given to you out in the woods?
Okay, so we have seen some beautiful sunsets. So, these waters all over Mississippi, we have seen some beautiful sunsets. The most fascinating thing that we have seen that moved us, it was a spiritual experience, is we were out doing the nighttime predator control with Brian, and we were in Bolton, Mississippi. We're on a side by side. It's in the middle of the night, and we come up on this row of hard pines, just a whole big line of them, and inside of those hard pines were thousands and thousands of fireflies, and they were flickering like in synchron.
Yeah.
Like, it was unbelievable to see that experience. We three stopped and just watched those lightning bugs and just were moved. Like, we understood immediately that we were seeing something that most people will go their whole lives and never see. And while we were there at that right time, to see that phenomenon, it was very moving to us, and it's something that neither one of us, or even Brian, will never forget what those fireflies looked like in Bolton, Mississippi that night.
So it was like in a hollowed out tree, just all kind of.
No, it was the edge of the tree line, and so it was just like lots of hard pines, but it was just at the edge of the tree line. For some reason, all of these lightning bugs were just inside the tree line, in the trees, look like, yes, in sync, lightning, and then just, oh my gosh, thousands and thousands and thousands of them, look like Christmas lights. It was amazing.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. And Lauren, I mean, is that the same experience that is the coolest for you, or do you have another one?
There's so many things, there's too many things to even name off, but just being out there, both of us, like, we can't even believe we get to do this for work, like, every single day. I mean, it's still like, it still feels like the first time, like, wow, I can't believe I'm doing this right now and I get to do this.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a blessing, right? When you get to do something that's gets you outside and that you love. What do you think is kind of the future of trapping? And I'll preface this by saying, oftentimes trapping is like the low-hanging fruit in the world of, anti-trappers, anti-hunter groups targeting it, right? There's very few of us who do it. There's very few of us who, you join the associations, but there's this kind of perpetual motion to say, like, why are we even trapping these days? But from both of your perspective, what do you see as the future of trapping? Like, I'll stop there and ask that question.
So as far as like the fur trade and all of the trappers that are doing it for the trading, we don't know, because that's not something that we do. I hope it lives on. I hope it, I love everything about it. But as far as what we do with the ADC trapping, I do not see that it's going to go away, the need for these landowners to protect their land. In fact, I see it increasing as we get proactive and, in keeping what we have from being destroyed. So I do not see us slowing down. I hope we don't. We don't want to. We want to do this for as long as we're able to do it. We just want to be in the trapping world, doing the beaver trapping.
Yeah, and I think you will. And I hope you do, because we need it. And I think that's an absolute key thing I want people to take away, whether you're a trapper or a non-trapper, is this is necessary work, right? Like, there's two sides, right? You have a hobbyist like me who's out there trapping for fur and, doing it as a hobby. And you have folks who are doing ADC work and, helping landowners or helping highway districts or whatever it is that, we have to control animals to some degree. And if you let it go, the repercussions are huge. It is amazing. And I always give the reference, like, up where I live, we had a beaver flood a road, and it caused literally over $1 million worth of damage because it was a dirt road. You had to get permits to bring stuff in, and it can be a huge impact that people don't often think about. So in that vein, when you're out talking to people at a bar or at Walmart, and somebody sees you with like a Beaver Unlimited shirt on, and they ask you like, "What do you do?" And you're like, "Well, I trap." What's kind of your go-to for helping people understand why it's important?
I mean, pretty much what you just said about, I mean, there is a need for it. Like before I started trapping, I had no clue. Trapping beavers, okay, they're just trapping beavers. I had no clue why. There's a need for it. Like we've had landowners that have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars from beaver damage. Like it's a need. It's not, we're not just doing it for fun or what. There's a need for it.
And we're both animal lovers, so I think that's part of when you tell somebody that you're a trapper, there is sometimes their first instinct is, what, you kill animals, but we are animal lovers and very respectful of them. We understand that they're are a nuisance, and so when you explain that the damage that they do, people are a little bit more understanding. And lots and lots of women say, I don't want to do what you're doing, so I don't know how y'all are doing it, but at least it's not that we're the bad guys just out there killing animals for no reason.
Yeah. Do you get pushback on that at all when you tell people, or are most people pretty receptive to that kind of explanation?
Well, most people that know us, they already know that, why we're doing it. I have had an occasional Facebook message like, how could you do that, from people that really don't know me. But when I look at them, I understand that they don't know. They would have no way of knowing. They would have no way of understanding. So I just allow them to have their opinion from where they sit, and from where we sit, we understand what we do is valuable. And so we're just going to keep getting better at it.
You mentioned, and I run into the same thing where I tell people like, no, I love animals. And I do. Like, my dogs are sitting here. I love being around horses, mules, wild animals when I can. With being around beavers and how cool they are, I know both of you know that. I know that. What has been the most shocking thing with trapping beavers as far as difficulty? Has there been a specific beaver so far in your career that has like given you the slip, or been a little smarter than you thought they were? Like, what was that beaver and what was the situation?
The last beaver of the job is always the sneaky one. He has sat there and watched everything. So yes, the first job that we cleared out, just her and I, we spent a few weeks chasing that last one. It seemed like the first 3 or 4 came so fast, we were feeling like this is easier than it should be. And then it took us like a month to get that last one because he was just smart. But when we pulled up the day that last one was in that conibear, yes, that felt good. That was when we were like, okay,
we can do this.
We can do this. Like we can do this. We just did this.
After the commitment, and I think that's the part and parcel that a lot of people don't understand about trapping is, if an animal does get trap shy, it's very difficult. And it sounds like you said it took weeks, but you were still getting traps out, changing sets. Like, do you remember what it was that finally got him? Was it a set you'd been using over time and he slipped up, or were you guys changing the sets you were trying to put out?
I think we moved the conibear a couple of times. Just that the area that we were, had a lot of active holes and stuff in there. So we knew it was in one of them. So we just had to keep trying till actually the beaver, messed up and went through our trap.
What's the sketchiest area that you've had to put a trap in? That could be by like terrain, or, maybe if you had to go into like a neighborhood instead of like a private land. Like, what's the most sketchy or difficult terrain you've had to trap beavers in?
We have several sketchy jobs. Some of them are not in the best areas. I know we have a cemetery job. The scariest though is the neighborhoods and having to deal with people. That's the scariest.
Let's talk about that, because that scares me. Like, I live way out in the back country. I put a set out, I'll put up signs, and the likelihood that I have a non-target catch or somebody's dog or someone messing with them is almost zero. The thought of having to put a conibear or something in a neighborhood that is in need of taking out an animal like a beaver scares the crap out of me. How do you handle that? And then what does that look like?
Yeah, so you were asking earlier when we would choose a snare over a conibear. That's definitely an example of that in a neighborhood. So we prefer snares. We are conscious that of where we're putting them. We're trying not to get in somebody's backyard, so we do not want to get any animals. But those are the ones that we're going to check, on time and stuff. Because if we were to get someone's pet or whatever, that we would be ready to rescue it quickly.
Yeah, and you don't want like a dead beaver sitting in somebody, where somebody's looking out their window in their house and say, "Oh, that's a dead beaver," things like that.
Yeah. And you said, Lauren, dealing with people always ruin the equation.
Yeah.
Have you had any bad run-ins with people messing with your traps, or people who have just come out and, either talked you up for no good reason or given you trouble?
Oh yeah, so we have had people messing with our traps before, and also, just in neighborhoods, we have men will come out, see two women out there. What are y'all doing? Oh, we're trapping. Oh, well, they think they know. They think they know.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And some of so like landscapers, so we've got some jobs that are in neighborhoods and stuff, so they're paying people to keep their grass cut and stuff. Those people are not going to take care of a snare that may be down there.
Mm-hmm.
So if we get somebody messing with our stuff, it's not intentional all the time. We just try to be like market some kind of a way, but we are protective of our traps, and so we're kind of like tell the landowner, like, we're putting the traps, like,
we'll touch them,
we'll come back and check them. We're kind of a little protective of our traps.
Also, some of our traps are passed down, so they have sentimental value, like our conibears. A lot of them are passed down from
it's what we learned to trap with and stuff. So we have bought some new ones, some 330s, and but we kind of sentimental to the first ones we got.
Well, that's understandable. Have you lost any traps yet, or has it all just been really?
We have. Some of them have popped back up.
So yes, we lost a new one, and we were so upset about it because it was the first time we had set it brand new. And so I guess our hard anchor must have come loose, because we found it like a month later on the other side of the water. So I guess it drifted over there, and then an animal had pulled it up. And so we found the trap with the beaver bones in it. But we celebrated that $25. I mean, we salvaged it, so that was exciting for us to find that trap.
Yeah, I think that's all. I mean, it's inevitable, right? Whether it's by somebody taking it, or, a bad anchor, or a fault, like technology, quote, fails, right? Like mechanical items sometimes fail, but being able to find it is rewarding, especially knowing that you had a catch too, and help those landowners out in that way. If I'm thinking about somebody like yourselves or me 5 years ago, 3 years ago, who might have had a passive interest in trapping, what would you say to somebody today that is interested in trapping but doesn't really know where to go next? Like, what advice would you give to somebody who has an interest but just hasn't stepped over the threshold to go trapping yet?
I mean, I would say do it. If you want to do it, at least try it. You never know unless you try it. And if you don't like it, don't do it. But it's just, if you like it, it's amazing.
Having a mentor is so important.
Yes.
Having somebody that is a skilled trapper that invests in you and sees potential in you and gives you advice and walks it with you. That's what you got. That's who you have to find. If you're interested in it, I would find the best in my area and hang out with them. Like, I want to learn the skill. I want to learn from somebody that knows what they're doing. Do not be afraid. It sounds a whole lot bigger than it really is. There's so much satisfaction in getting the job done. So it feeds something in our brains, and I would say to anybody that's interested in it, pursue that, because what you're feeling, that urge or that
There's a
interest you
reason.
have it, yes, you're going to connect with this amazing skill, life skill. I feel like it connects me to 100 years ago, some kind of a way. So I would definitely tell anybody to pursue that, get that joy from it, encourage it.
You hit on something I say almost every podcast, that trapping is like the ultimate time machine. You go back in time the second you slip your boots on, grab your steel, and you're walking out in the swamp. You're as close to, the French out in Mississippi and, Louisiana as anybody. And it's allows you those opportunities like you have with the fireflies or with gators or whatever other critters are out there. Lightning round question, Lauren, if you had to give advice to somebody, or let me put it this way, what is one tool that you would never go out on your trap line without, if you had to take one tool with you every time?
Oh, my 38 special. Every single time. Every single time. Not go anywhere without it.
Have you had to employ that on any like snakes or anything, or?
I've shot a few beavers with it, actually.
Yeah, they can be kind of aggressive too. So 38 special, that is a good one. Melanie, what about you?
My Leatherman, Brian bought us when we first started. He bought us each some Leatherman, and we use it every single time we go out, numerous times. So it's our number one tool for sure. Okay. That and setters.
Setter, yeah. Yeah. I'm not. You see the people on YouTube, the guys who can just take those jaws on those 330s and close them. That ain't me. I'm using setters too. It's a must-have.
Yes. And we could do it by ourselves, but how nice is it to have somebody there to throw those safeties on and stuff? So we work well together in that aspect.
Work smart, not hard. That's my motto. If you had to pick one type of set, and you might have already answered this a little bit, for beaver for the rest of your life, between 330s, footholds, or snares, and you could only use one of those three for the rest of your life, Melanie, what would you choose? And then Lauren, what would you choose?
A 330.
330. Lauren, the snare girl.
That's hard. That's so hard. I guess a 330. I have to go with 330.
I mean, if it was just one forever, if I
had to choose one, it'd be a Conavera for sure.
Yeah, they're consistent. Well, first and foremost, like, we're coming up on an hour already, which is awesome. I told you it'd go by super duper fast. If people want to learn more about what you are doing, like as Mississippi Trap Queens, working with Beaver Unlimited, like, do you have a social media? Is there anywhere people can reach out to you? If people are curious about getting into trapping, can people reach out to you online? Tell us a little bit about where people can learn more about what you are both doing.
Absolutely. So we have Facebook and Instagram, Beavers Unlimited, spelled out just like that. The Mississippi Trap Queens are working on a YouTube page, so that'll be coming soon. So, yeah, definitely go follow us on Beavers Unlimited, Instagram or Facebook. Both.
And then if people want to reach out, that's the best channel to get a hold of you. If
Yes.
somebody's interested in trapping or has questions about it, or just about both of you, they can do that.
Yes, send us a message on our social media, and we will definitely get back in touch with you.
Okay. And then my last question for both of you is a little bit of a hypothetical. would you rather be able to live and trap in Mississippi for the rest of your life, but you had to, or no, just you can live in Mississippi and trap beavers for the rest of your life, or you have the option to trap beaver, but you could live and have an estate anywhere else in the United States? Which would you rather have? Like, you could have free and clear any property, any house you wanted somewhere outside of Mississippi, or would you rather stay in Mississippi and be able to just trap beaver for the rest of your life, but like live in a shack?
I would definitely live in a shack and be able to trap beavers for the rest of my life.
What about you, Melanie?
Same. Mississippi is home. This is where our people are. This is the area that we're familiar with, that we love. So yeah, we're definitely staying in Mississippi and beaver trapping forever.
Awesome. Well, ladies, thank you so much for the time. I learned a lot. I'm sure people who are listening have learned tons as well. I'm sure you'll get plenty of reach outs from people who want to learn more. But thank you. And for those listening, stay tuned for another episode of the Okayest Trapper podcast.
Thank you.